Well, I just got done with the initial test runs on the Sonerai and the modifications that I've done over the winter. The plane actually hasn't flown since last August, and I've been doing a lot of work on it, so I thought I'd do a video of some of the updates that have been done to it. Quite a few actually, but probably the most significant one is right here. I actually put a Ray J turbo on it, changed the intake manifold. It now has a full digital ignition that's programmable, and changed the carburetor as well to a Mikuni Super BN jet ski carburetor, which seems to be working out pretty good so far. Lots of other instrumentation going into it. Since the ignition is digital and logs everything that takes place, I put a throttle position sensor on it. It also has an intake air sensor that the ignition logs. This is the VR sensor for the crank-fired digital ignition. Had to build all that bracketry to make it work out and have a custom timing wheel cut to make it work. We'll start down here on the bottom of the motor, and you can see the custom 4-into-1 exhaust that goes into a collector and feeds the turbo on the other side of the engine. Also installed a starter and an alternator to drive everything. I retained the magneto, and the digital ignition now feeds into plugs on the bottom of the engine as well. Since the carburetor is now way up high, I have to have fuel pumped to it, and it won't run without the pump, so I've had to put in dual pumps, and that gigantic mess is down in here. They're in parallel, the pumps are in parallel, so they have to have check valves. If you run the pumps in series, you double the pressure, and I need about 4 psi of pressure to the carb at all times, so that covers that. It was the most annoying thing I think I've ever done on an airplane, trying to fit all that junk in there. So here's the ignition module installed. I should say everything right now is temporarily installed. The motor is going to come apart as soon as I'm done with my test runs and everything, and check it out and make sure everything is still good on the bottom end, and then I'll put it all back together the right way. This thing here is actually a manifold, pressure manifold, if you will. Pressure needs to get to a couple different places. The ignition bases its timing table on RPM and manifold pressure. So one feed goes off to the ignition, one goes to the gauge, and there's a switch right there for a water injection system I'm working on as well. On the turbocharger, I put an oxygen sensor and an air-fuel ratio gauge in there as well to keep track of everything. So it's set up with four EGTs and 4 CHTs, and there's a couple extra probes I got hanging around here to be able to move and capture data as well. Lots of work to the panel taking place. There's the gem gauge right there in the middle, and I'm going to go around to the other side and shoot from there. A lot of the things are still the same as I shot in the last video. Since then I've added a center console with a real airplane radio in it, which works out really nice. The GPS on the left, of course, and the RAM mount there is for a tablet for moving maps. Here's the switching bay that I had to add. So I've got battery A, battery B, because I need redundancy to support the fuel system now. The mag digital ignition switch, fuel pump A, fuel pump B, the water injection arming, and the alternator. Up above is the indication system for the ADI to let me know that it's working properly. Actually, what happens is if the system fails for whatever reason, the red light turns on, and it also changes the ignition timing map so I don't blow the thing to bits. The other additions, I had to switch the manifold pressure gauge out now to handle boost. There's a fuel pressure gauge. There's the GEM EGT CHT. The fuel flow was in there before. There's the air-fuel ratio gauge, and the start button. I'm taking a look into the turtle deck now, which is where I'm going to put my batteries. And again, this is all just temporary mock-up stuff to see how it's going to fit and work. So I've got the dual high output batteries, 2 master contactors, and I can turn them on and off independently. I probably intend on using both batteries and both fuel pumps for critical parts of flight, and it's capable of running or starting on just one or both. Well, that pretty much wraps up the bulk of the changes that took place this year. I've still got a lot of work to do before it flies. I've got to build new baffling for the oil cooler, as well as new cooling baffles for the engine as well. And the prop is extended out another 2.5 inches from where it was before, so I need to redo the entire nose bowl and the new spinner as well.